One of the things that I love about this week's Parshah is that there's no sex in it. Like, it's so nice when you have to settle down, and just go through a whole Parshah and there's no, in and out. Nobody's doing the nasty. Nobody's raping and pillaging, and nobody's using the workman's entrance, and there's no oral, and there's no onanism, and it's just nice and clean and pure. It's just like building a house to God. There's none of that nasty sexual stuff. And that's one of the things I
Sex is a
appreciate.
big turnoff to me.
Yeah, it makes me sick. I just want to ugh.
Yeah,
Ugh.
I think people that can't overcome their sexual
Desires. They're animals. They're beasts. They're just it's just so primitive. It just makes me ill when I think about wanton behavior. It's just such a low level. Like, why can't people rise and elevate themselves to Hashem and to His Torah? And let's turn our back on all this nasty sexual stuff. And that's what things I really appreciate about this week's Parshah. It's so pure and holy.
It's Puritan.
Yeah, it's Puritan.
Right,
very much like myself.
I like all the Parshas that are very Puritanistic, and they don't have that wanton disregard for the And
one of the things that upset me about Lamud is there were so many women there. And I'd walk out of the elevator and accidentally brush up against one. And then I'd have, for all I know, she might have been impure.
Right.
And then I'd have her perfume on me. As I'd go about the rest of my day studying Torah, I've got woman stink on me. And
it's how can you deal with that's not even fair.
And then for Havdalah, we'd make these conga lines. And I'd just join a conga line only if there were guys in it. But suddenly the women would come in, they'd grab me, put their hands all over me, and I'm just trying to do a conga line to Hashem, and these women are all over me, and I'm thinking, is this really what Hashem has intended for my life, for women to be groping me when I'm trying to do a holy conga line to Hashem?
That I understand. That's quite a.
So the last time that I laid down with a woman, publicly and officially, it was before my Orthodox conversion. So thank God for this week's Parsha, no sex. Yeah, that's one thing I love about the Parsha.
Okay, so someone asked me a question about electric cars.
Yeah.
It's a good question. Electric cars is really, it's a kind of a question that, what's so funny?
Ginger says, women stink, conga lines, and a man with a beard with sunglasses. Perfect trifecta. Sorry, go ahead.
What the hell was I?
Sorry. They're complaining Jesus is getting creepy. This shtick worked a bit when you're a 34-year-old guy walking around hot porn checks, not now. So anyway, they wanted to know, well, the reason you can't drive a car on Shabbat is because of spark plugs, which is lighting a fire. And
that's one of the reasons.
That's one of the reasons.
There's many reasons.
It's often thought of as the primary reason by many people. I'm not saying they're correct.
Okay,
But so the Lakewood Rav wants to know, what about electric cars if there are no spark plugs?
Okay, well, that's only one of the problems. Electric things, period. Forget cars. Anything that's electric, we're not allowed to start or stop the electric thing on our own power on Shabbos. It's a good question, because it's a problem of completing a circuit. And completing a circuit comes from one of the 39 categories of what's called bona. It's building. And by completing a circuit, you're violating on that. Also, it's a problem with what's called makapapatish, that it's the final hit of the hammer, which is one of the 39. If you hit something the final time and you finish it, you violate Shabbos. So completing a circuit, it can also be a problem of makapapatish. So that's two categories that you're violation of. Okay, so if there's any electricity in it, that's two violations. You brought up the spark that comes out if it was an electric, not electric, a hybrid or a gas car, 3. There's another problem. All mechanical things that you ride around with, even in your backyard, like your bicycle, you're not allowed to ride a bike on Shabbos even in your backyard. Because the problem is that you might it might like break or something, and you might come to fix it, and then you've got a problem of bona, which is building, and also if it's the final twist of the wrench, it would be like the final smack of the hammer, so it's makabapatish. So there's two problems right there. Then there's another problem. If you go into the public domain with your car, whether it's electric or not, it's a problem of you're carrying this thing into the Rishus Harabim.
And people could see you and think that you're driving a regular car, and it could be Maris Ayin.
If we were to say that electric cars would otherwise be okay, right, and just forget about bona and all these other things, yes, you would have a problem of Morris Ayin off of a gas car. But it's you're carrying the Rishus Harabim. So at the end of the day, you
can't do it.
You can't do it.
Now, many of our viewers, they have a consistent problem with bona. So it's important the other 6 days of the week that you drive an electric car, because you're much less likely to have sex in a car if you're driving an electric car, because it's small.
And also
there's
because
just not room to stretch out.
It's not sexy, and women aren't going to open up in there.
Yeah, and like, could you imagine like trying to make it in one of those, what do they call these hybrids?
Prius?
Yeah, Prius.
No.
Could you imagine trying to get Priapic in a Prius?
Let me put it this way, like, nobody's ever been conceived in a Prius.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
So if you got a problem with bona 6 days a week, drive a Prius, and you be much less likely to commit an act which could forfeit your eternal reward. Like, for fleeting minutes, seconds of pleasure, that you could forfeit your eternal reward, and it's really not emotionally fulfilling. It doesn't it's just not going to give you the koach, the strength that you need to go on with your life doing mitzvahs, like these random hookups in cars with shiksas. It's just not the true path.
Okay, they're asking a question. Where in Torah does it say you cannot complete a circuit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It talks about the 39 malachas.
Mm-hmm.
The 39 actions you can't do are talked about in length in the Talmud, and expanded upon by our Meforshim, our commentators, the Rishonim, and brought down again in the Achronim. And when it came to the circuits, when electricity started coming up, they asked these questions to the Gedoli of the door, and people like Rav Kamenetsky and Rav Moshe Feinstein, they were people who paskin these things as they came up.
Exactly.
Uh-oh.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it myself. Do you have anything else on this week's Parshah?
Let's see if they got any other questions. We see.
Well, I've got a lot of thumbs down on my teachings.
Right.
So they said,
I'm a little concerned that
Luke is asleep. Hurry, someone mentioned sex.
Yeah, that was Ginger.
Yeah. She has such a cynical perspective on me.
I just think that Ginger isn't comfortable talking about sex. She isn't comfortable hearing about it. I mean, it's like an ongoing thing, like every week now,
But I'm increasingly like that too. I mean, I got to say that Ginger has kind of shown me the light. And I think I'm going to start elevating this discussion. So
you can't make it 10 minutes without injecting something. And we've gone that's impossible for you, because you're thinking ratings, right? And that's not going to happen. But Rabs, you can avoid completing or breaking a circuit with an electric car. I don't know the electric car on that one. I don't know enough to have it. I'm not, that's what you go to Rav Moshe for, but...
Exactly. Can't we talk about sex? Why always talk about electric cars when...
Can one cook with a gas flame on Shabbos? No, you're not allowed to cook, because one of the 39 prohibitions is cooking. Right. It's just cooking on its own. It doesn't matter how. It doesn't even matter if there's no flame. It doesn't matter if it's an electric. It could be sitting out in the sun, and if it's going to cook, it's a problem. You're not allowed to cook on Shabbos. Period.
Could someone eat a lot of cholent on Friday night and be internally cooking with beans as they're walking along, and they're getting
Okay, but they shouldn't go on that elevator with you when you're rubbing against those women who stink. I'm just thinking just putting that together.
So important that the kiddies...
Yes. I'm a little concerned about one thing here. We lost a few viewers along the way. We picked up somebody, by the way. We picked up William 609. Is that his area code or something?
I don't care about the chat room unless they're young and hot and want to date me.
Oh, okay. Because we lost Well, I'm a little concerned, and we lost Elizabeth, and right after I commented on something that you asked me about, and then she disappeared, and I hope she's not mad at me. So I'm a little concerned.
I hope it wasn't